Rob Van Dam, former WWE World Champion, former WCW competitor, former ECW World Champion, Mr. Monday Night, Mr. Friday Night. He's even wrestled for MLW. He's done it all. TNA. I think because you just had kids as well, and your wife actually has quite a few hit videos on this channel. I don't know if you're aware of that, but over the years I've licensed several videos of your wife on this channel that have over 100,000 views. So she's quite popular. So you've trained her well over the years too. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great, man. Let me do my my intro. This is RVD. Cool. All right. All good, man. All things said are true. So our babies are like 10 weeks old now. So pretty much that's taking over a lot of what's on the plate in front of us, except I'm still doing my thing. Just got back from Australia and the UK, Manchester, Newcastle, and then Glasgow, Scotland, and then went to Australia and had my first match in a while since I broke my heels last April. And so I'm happy to say I exceeded my expectations, and my feet felt great. I enjoyed the match. I believe the people did too. And I am looking at a lot of dates getting filled up on the calendar this year, and just like always, I'm not looking to fill up all the days off. Opportunities just come to me like a magnet.
Yeah, you're probably the only, other than Chris Jericho, who is only wrestling for a pretty much astronomical price. You're probably the guy that has the biggest name that's still a reasonable enough price that an independent promoter with some money could probably hire.
Hopefully not everybody. If I start getting booked too much,
Yeah.
goes up, because I don't want to work for a lot of people. And they don't understand. Right. When people contact me and then they say, well, we only draw like 200 people, we can't afford that. And it's like, I don't want to wrestle in front of you and your 20 people. You're sitting on barrels of hay. You don't even have seats, and I've done those shows a long time ago. So yeah, my standards are up, but I still enjoy it. Like I said, I had fun with it, and don't forget about Ricky Morton. He's out there.
Is he still out there? Is he still? I guess he's wrestles for the Insane Clown Posse, doesn't he?
Yeah,
regular.
He does. Yeah.
What happened to the rumor? Is there still talk that you might be joining them? Because I remember I have a little affiliation with them now. They let me post some of their stuff here and there. There was a rumor about a month ago that there may have been some talk with you and them.
If you don't know, Violent J, Joe Bruce, and I go way back. We started out together in the same area. I think I met him in 1990, and he was at some of my first wrestling shows, and he was around. He came to when I had a ring in my yard. He came, not my yard, but in a barn that I was renting. He came out there and worked out with Al Snow, and way back then, and he was telling me about his rap music. Or no, I don't know. He brought a cassette tape one time. I don't know what conversation we had before that, but when I heard the first one, it was called Wizard of the Hood, ICP. They weren't clowns yet. ICP was Inner City Posse, and I'm sure the juggalos out there know what I'm talking about. Inner City Posse's got the dog beats. ICP, we got the dog beats, and it was so good. I think Eminem's on there, Kid Rock's on there. There's someone else, and we're all from the same area, same start out. Detroit, and Battle Creek was in there. So anyway, always known him. When I first heard him, I was like, dude, you're way better rapper than wrestler, man. You got to follow this up, bro. Like, and he's always, talked to me about coming in to wrestle for the Juggalo Championship Wrestling. He's always done that. It's like 20 years old or so. I don't know the exact, maybe but it's been around for a long time. And I remember him telling me when he was starting out, he was going to do this. He was making money now off the rap music, so he could afford to have a show, and he didn't care if he lost money or not back then, at first. And so anyway, all along, it just, he used to want me to come out to that, the gathering, which, I was always a little bit above his budget. That was almost always the setback. But also the gathering sounded like you're out in the woods getting bit by mosquitoes, and then Tia Tequila, when she got pelted with human feces, I was like, dude, let's let this idea slide by, bro. Let's connect on something else somewhere. And anyway, he never gave up, and it just turns out Las Vegas is where I live. It's where WrestleMania is this coming event this year in a couple months. And anyway, I will be debuting, having my first match for JCW at the show on the 18th of April. It's like a midnight showing. It's JCW versus GCW, and he was telling me about the collective and how there's a bunch of different organizations involved, and I don't know exactly how that works out with the structure, if that means that this is the only JCW match of the whole thing, or if that means everyone has a show. I don't know, but yes, it's true. RVD will be officially JCW.
That's pretty cool. Any idea who you're wrestling on that event yet? Or was it going to come out soon?
Yeah, we've had some different ideas talked about, so I'm not exactly sure what we're going to stick with.
I can think of some that would definitely be some good ones.
One that I think we're not going to do that I wanted that, because at first we were talking about, for a while back before my heels were as healed as they are now. And I was like, dude, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to wrestle that. So during those conversations, we had a fun idea of a 6-man with me and Godfather and Matt Riddle. And I was thinking that might be a place where you could do some stuff you don't necessarily get away with in other places, especially because the show doesn't start till late. It's going to be, adults. And anyway, I was just like, wouldn't that be crazy if we had a joint and like as we tagged in and out, like we kept passing it, to whoever's outside on the apron and on the apron when we came in and wrestled. And some ideas along that I thought could have been fun, but I can tell you that's not what we're going with.
Yeah, because I don't think that's ever been done. Hopefully nobody takes it, but that's definitely legal on Fremont Street if that's where the show is, where I know they've had some of those collective shows there in the past. Someone's asking what your relationship's like with WWE these days. I remember seeing you on the John Cena retirement match sitting in the front row there. Are you still under a Legends contract?
I am. I'm under a Legends contract. They've just made a new figure that I just got actually. Anyway, it's a Walmart exclusive, and there's a specific tribute to RVD from like 92 WCW, 92, 93 when I was barefoot and had no airbrush design on my outfits. But it's a 2-in-1. And so it comes with the tiger striped outfit, but you take that off. It's got the other one underneath, and you take the feet off and you put bare feet or boots or whatever. And pretty cool. Anyway, yes, I'm under the Legends deal, and they are still making stuff of me. And my relationship with them, I'm planning on going to the Hall of Fame and sitting in with them. I'm part of the family in that way. And they send me cards from, it used to be Panini, but now it's Tops, to sign, among with other things. And I will be appearing at last year it was called Fanatics. This year it's called WWE World, from what I understand. And I will be there with WWE, signing on Monday of that. I think it's 420, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the selling point right there. If you don't know, if you're a special kind of fan, you can meet RVD on 420 at WWE World. So,
Yeah, you were class of 2021, right? So you've been in pretty much 5 years now.
Yep, that is correct. Class of 2021, Hall of Fame, and that's pretty much my relationship. I mean, I think you guys probably have heard the story. I was talking to them about giving John Cena a rematch on his retirement tour, and talks were going really good. It looked like we were going to figure out how to make that work. Boom, I broke my heels. That went out the window. So, outside of that, that's the best answer I got for you.
That's why you don't want to do those indie shows for pennies, because you're taking a risk to lose a big payday.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just everybody's time is what it's worth to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I mean, I started out, in USWA. I remember making $15 in Evansville, Indiana, and that was like a 7-hour loop. I don't know. It was, from USWA was Saturday morning was Memphis, Saturday night was Nashville, Monday was back to Memphis, Tuesday was Louisville, Wednesday was Evansville, and that was the last surviving territory. And I got to experience that in 91. In 91, 20 years old, not even old enough to drink, when we would go to a bar or something. Man, I lost, but I forgot what my point was, talking about
that you were one of the last ones to do U.S. territory, as USWA was the last real place you could work in the U.S. before developmental, if you want to call that a territory, which it's really not.
Yeah. I think I had a point to it, but I don't remember. That went out the window too. Oh, I was talking about the paydays. Anyway, it was a lot of road work, and a lot of matches a week, at least 4, maybe 6, maybe even 7 sometimes. But because Sunday was usually for a spot show, or it'd be Jonesboro, Arkansas. I was only there 4 or 5 weeks and went through their machine, but I got to experience all of that. And at that stage of my career, like the biggest payday, I think I might have got somewhere close to $70 one time. But Sabu was always good to me at telling me that I'm worth more money. Like throughout my career, I always had him. I had the Sheik, and then I had him, and he was like an extension of the Sheik. As far as like whatever he said, I felt like, they were coming from the same perspective. And he, like when I was with the ECW, he would just, like 96, like when I'm still getting to know everybody and stuff, Sabu would sometimes, he would say, what's Paul paying you? That's this, and he'd say, well, when's the last time I gave you a raise? Well, I don't know, it seemed not that long ago. When was it? Like 6 weeks ago. He said, wait about 2 more weeks, tell him you need more money. I'd be like, really? Sometimes I would feel like, I don't even know if I, like not only did I not feel ballsy enough to do it, but also sometimes I might even question, like, is that the right thing to do right now? But whatever he said to do, I would do it, So I would go to him and say, hey, and it always worked, and I always got more money. And he did the same thing always when I was with All Japan, which is a big part of my career that's forgotten about when people talk about my resume, but from like 2000, um, not 2000. No wonder I couldn't match something at the end of that. But anyway, from like I guess it was February of '93 till about Mayish. No, it was December of '92 until like May when I was with WCW. Anyway, even that was $150, and then $100 if it was on TV. They would dock you $50. Um, and I see sometimes other people that are at that stage in their career, and I'm like, I get it, brother. You know, I've been there, but at the same time, I'm like, you definitely can't be paying your bills with some of those numbers, and so you got to do what you got to do. And I learned, you know, to do merchandise way back in USWA. I could double my payoff by having pictures of me and buying those from the photographer and selling them and shit. So that's always been part of my thing that I learned to grow. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that are at that point, and you know, hang in there. There's also a lot of guys that make way more, and they don't need to hear my advice, you know. But definitely, everyone's time is worth to them what it's worth to them. You know, nobody else can say that your time, the value of your time, is worth anything different to you. They can say to them, and then if it doesn't work out, that's not a match. So then, okay, yeah, my time isn't worth as much to you. You're not gonna be able to make your money back. You know, you don't have the accessibility to make that happen. You know, someone else, you know, boom, then it works out. But you always get to judge your own values on everything, especially on your time and what it's worth to you.
As far as training and teaming with Sabu, what was your favorite tag team match you had with him over the years? Was there one particular that stands out to you?
Probably, um, probably the match that I've seen clips from over and over, played on YouTube with Sanjaki and Hayabusa, Heatwave '98, I believe it was, Dayton, Ohio, O'Hare Arena. And, you know, sometimes when you're brothers and you grew up pretending you were wrestlers, then you become wrestlers, you can go out there and have the best match because it's almost like cheating because you know each other so well. Other times, sometimes you just meet somebody in the ring that you don't even know. When I wrestled Jerry Lynn, he wasn't a friend. I just met him before the first time I wrestled him, but we had a great chemistry together. And with these guys, Sabu knew both of them and had wrestled both of them, and I neither. And also they didn't speak that great of English, so a lot of this was what we were able to pull out, and that's one of the reasons I think it was one of my favorite tag matches, because the end result was something that I'm proud of. I thought we did some really cool stuff, and and you know, the camera caught a lot of it, and I'm thankful for that.
Did you know more than other people that he was so close to passing, being as good friends as him, or did it take you as much of a shock as it did to everyone else when he passed away so suddenly?
I didn't know. I had prepared for that kind of news to hear it, you know, like 25 years ago. And when all our friends were dropping left and right, and and he was, you know, taking stretcher rides to the hospital regularly, scaring the shit out of people, and then kicking out. I was prepared. I was already mad at him because I thought that I was going to have to pay for the services and stuff at one point, and could not get him could not get him to go take a different path, make any changes. He was Sabu, and he was going to Sabu it till the end. And I accepted that could be a good friend, instead of not being a friend or being a pain in his ass or whatever. And he did do some, there was some foreshadowing looking back, from where we're at now. Some of it, a lot of it, we caught in the movie, the documentary that me and Joe Clark did on Sabu, which you can look up and watch now. I saw that it's free somewhere, and Joe posted it, so I reposted it because I figure it's legit. Whatever he's posting it on. One of them is called Kinema. It's just a website, Kinema, like cinema with a K.com, and you can go there and just watch it. You don't have to get an app or whatever. But proud of the movie, and it has some magic in it. And part of it is Sabu talking about dying after his last match, and there's a lot of foreshadowing. He's ready to go. He says he doesn't want to, but if it's his time, he's ready. And he gets dark in his head a few times. One time he's even like, "Wow, where the fuck did that come from?" And seeing it back from now and putting that with a lot of cell phone text messages that I have from him. He's always trying, we both live in the same town in Las Vegas, and he was a night owl, and he was always trying to get me to go out and meet him at the Nerd Bar, and I'm a homebody, so there's a lot of it. Come on, man, meet us down there, and I'm like, dude, I'm already in bed, and he's like, oh, come on, and he would say, like, for the last few months, he would say on there stuff like, come on, we don't know how long we have together, and stuff like that, and we don't know when, how long we're going to be around. Come on, we need to get together. And obviously looking back at it after the fact, I wish I would have put some more perspective into what he was saying. I really thought that he was talking about me, and that he was, because I had gone to the doctor and had high blood pressure and was dealing with this shit. And I thought, and it was just the timing of it, but he was talking about himself.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed over the years is when people start talking like that, sometimes they are giving you hints and you don't notice it until after. Yeah. And then you kick yourself about it. But I guess he died a legend, right? So he died still competing in a memorable match that was recorded. So in a way,
he didn't die competing in the match, but he died after, 3 weeks after.
Yeah. Was it?
There was a lot of crazy talk afterwards about blaming GCW, blaming Joey Janela for kratom, something that, I give him in the movie, and he always would take it every day anyway. He loved it, and even stuff, if you remember, there was talk about he had to super glue his feet together. He shouldn't have even been wrestling. All of that we caught on film in our documentary. So that's something that you can have light on and see. But not well. I don't know what that. I don't know what I was going to say. Something about Sabu, but
what do you think about kratom, anyways? Because that's always a controversial one. Because people will say it's better than opiates, but try to go off of it, and you'll have very similar effects to opiate withdrawal if you try and go off of it.
To that degree, I feel on a broader level, even about opiates, that the addiction is in the person, and not the drug. You know what I mean? Here's how I feel. If I have a gun in one hand and drugs in the other hand, which one's more dangerous? Because on their own, neither one of them is dangerous. But if you use it wrong, then what happens? And even though I've lost a lot of brethren, my peers, to drug overdoses and stuff, I still don't see the addiction argument being put in the right place. And I know for me, even including cannabis, which I smoke a lot of cannabis, but if I ever just stop for a day or two because I'm traveling, or maybe a week, even sometimes, I got no problems at all with anything, even coffee. So I think everybody experiences everything differently, and that's more what we should be taught. You can get addicted to sugar. You can, I'm not saying I'm a friend. I think there's use, and then I think there's abuse, and I think that is something that should be more apparent. Responsibility, as opposed to blaming the drug itself. You don't blame the gun itself. I mean, you don't try to get rid of cars because cars are killing people. It's the people misusing it. So, but with kratom, separating that, it's not even a controlled substance. It does work on your opiate receptors, and I think that it's great. It's made from a coffee plant, a family member, dried leaf ground up, and then it's in a powder form. You can use the powder in teas, capsules. You can have it in gummies. Now they have it in shots. Like I think I have one, but anyway, from Hungry Hippo, who we talk about on my show a lot. I'm a fan. To answer your question, I've seen a lot of my friends that were taking a lot of prescription medication switch to kratom and get a similar effect. I myself, I don't even get high from it. I forget when I'm talking about it to mention that people do take it some to get high. But again, like I said, everyone has a different effect, because I never get high. I got high off it like one time, the very first time I took it, and it was because I took so much. I wanted to see how much. I thought, since it's natural over the counter, it couldn't be that strong. And Sabu was telling me to eat 3 ounces, and he really meant 3 grams. And so I had like a coffee cup full of just the powder, and I was trying to choke that down, and it was not a good experience. But since then, it can alleviate pain. It can help with sleep to a great extent, and anxieties. But I don't know if it's any more addictive than chocolate or than opiates. I couldn't tell you. I can tell you that I've never had a problem with. I'll take it. Like sometimes I'll take it once, and then I don't take it again for like a week, and I'll say, yeah, I forget that I got kratom, and it's, you got to get the right substance to get it to enjoy it, because it does have a flavor that's not the best if you just eat the powder by itself. But you can get around that, especially if you don't mind sugar, and so that.
And there's one that's called 7 hydroxy or something that's stronger too.
It's way stronger. So that one I see more like when you have weed, the leaf, the plant, bud, and then when you use all the crystals and you blow them off of the plant and you concentrate them, and then you make concentrates. That's how I see the 7-0 now. It's an ingredient that is in the kratom leaf, and then it's concentrated, and it's much stronger. And I think a lot of people get the two mixed up when they're experiencing it, and it's the 7-0 isn't something really to mess around with if you're a novice.
I see your AEW dressing room sign in the background. What's the difference in the dressing rooms in AEW compared to when you've been back in WWE in recent years? I'm sure it's way different now than it used to be in the early 2000s and the 90s when you were back there. I can guess anyways.
No, but you're right. It's way different. Different vibe. In the WWE, it's a lot more office people. It's a bigger production, and there's a lot of young adults that seem very professional. They seem like they're happy to be there at their job. They don't seem like they're all drugged out or tired from doing long road drives and then partying afterwards. It seems like a lot more professional and corporate. And in AEW, not as many office or even adult looking um, administration looking people, but more like a lot of the wrestlers um, doing their own thing with the cameraman and lighting and all the production people. I guess it seems smaller AEW to an extent, a little. I don't even know why, but and it seems like it's more the wrestlers doing more what they want, maybe without the guidance or slash structure put in by what would have been in WWE older ex wrestlers or legends or people like that.
Do you think it's a good tactic for them? Because every week it seems like they're hiring like five new guys, but they don't really fire all that many. Do you think that they should just use what they have and put a greater effort to get them over? Or just, I don't know how you could say this neutrally, but would you work more if you were in charge there on let's get the people we have over? Because it doesn't seem like they're getting any more TV time to get these people over. And some of these guys they have under contract, I guess Chris Jericho, he's been under contract since April, and they've put an extension on it or something. They haven't even used him. That seems like a guy I'd want to put on TV if I was paying all that money, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what their goals are. I don't know what they have up their sleeve, and I really don't can't say that I'm up on the current product enough to give proper perspective on that. But I mean, if they have some kind of business plan in mind, maybe they have more channels or some other platforms in mind for that they're going to pull out. I don't know. I really don't. So, when I'm asked if it's a good idea for someone else to do something, I gotta say the best answer is depends on their goals, right?
Right. Here's a funny question. At both of your peaks, would you be able to beat Jacques Rougeau in a shoot? Because I believe he did have a match against you in WWE that not many fans know about, but it's on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So yeah, I did one time in WWF, like just shortly after I've been Rob Van Dam for like maybe a year, and Pat Tanaka was the local guy there at the Tampa Sportatorium. He was the booker. He was also the WWE Connect. He was going to get a bunch of the guys jobs when WWE was in town, and this was during the enhancement matches. So all the matches were squash matches back then. One superstar against one nobody. We used to call them as fans. And anyway, I got hooked up with it. But then for some reason it didn't happen. And then Pat said, "Oh, sorry, I can get you next week, but you got to drive up to Baton Rouge and I guess New Orleans." And me and this dude, Sandy Beach, drove up there, and I really just wanted the money. Like, even though I was green, I wasn't looking forward to being squashed on TV. I was getting a push already where I was, and I didn't want to destroy that. So I changed my look as much as I could, and called myself Matt Byrne. And anyway, the first night, they put my name on the list, and then Sandy Beach had his match, and then they never called me, and they didn't have a match for me, but I still got paid, and that was a win-win for me because I did not want to be on TV anyway. Promoters, and I knew this even way back then, and there used to be a lot more indie guys company, at least that I would work for. They would get mad if you do a job. They don't want you doing a job for any other promotion. They say that it hurts your credibility there in their promotion, especially if you're on TV. Eddie Mansfield was at one point when I was in WCW referred to me as Rob Von Jobber, and I was like, man, I can't keep doing this, and I did end up leaving there, left everywhere actually. On my own, but anyway, at this time, boom, Sportatorium was once a week on Thursdays, and I was getting like $35 for a match for 1 week. Then for WWE to do one of these enhancement matches, $150. So boom, that was a lot of money to me back then. $150. First night, I didn't even have to be embarrassed on TV. The next night, they had a match for me. In fact, they ended up having two. One was against Sid Vicious, and it was a handicap match with this dude, Scott Casey. So now, not only do I got to be seen getting squashed when they're trying to push me as Rob Van Dam down there, but also in a handicap match. But I'm Matt Byrne, and so nobody would even know about this if I didn't tell them, because I looked so different. I was a different kid. I was a different person back then. But the other match I had to do twice, which means, yes, I did get paid $300, 10 times what I was getting at the Sportatorium. But the other match was against the Mountie, Jacques Rougeau, and I'm sure he doesn't remember it. I met him a couple of years at a convention, and talked to him and told him, I actually, worked with you. We worked with each other. And of course, he didn't know. And he was like, what? And I said, yeah. And I don't know if anyone has showed him or what, but that's the story, though. I did it for the money. And I called myself Matt Byrne. And after the match with the Mountie, I also had a shirt that I wore just to help change my look, with blue trunks, blue volleyball knee pads, my white boxing boots, and Matt Byrne, white tape on my wrist. And after the match, after I went through the gorilla position, I could hear some fuss behind me when I was walking away from it. And Gorilla Monsoon, which is what they named Gorilla after, was in there saying, what? He did not. Are you serious? What? And then I saw him coming out, and he was coming towards me, and I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck? And he came up to me and he goes, you didn't have that shirt on for your match, did you? The shirt that I was wearing right then, and I was like, yeah. He goes, what? You wore that out there? Why would you do that? And I didn't really have an answer for him. I didn't want to tell him because I'm a big star in Tampa, big fucking 21-year-old or whatever I was. But anyway, he was like, oh, great. Well, now we might have to redo the match again. Stand by. And I had to stand there, with my head down, like, oh my God, I fucked up. And then a while later the message came, that boom, we're cleared. I got the fuck out of there, and I was like, well, I made $300. That was the takeaway. And I had a match with Jacques Rougeau, and yes, I could definitely beat him now or in either of our peaks, whenever that was.
Do you think I know he wasn't a fighter when he did that roll of quarters thing? Do you think for a coworker's fight is appropriate to do the roll of quarters?
Well, I'll get, yeah. Thanks for asking my perspective on it because I've been. But did you watch the interview that Dynamite Kid's daughter did with him?
Yeah, I
Okay,
did.
I watched that before. I thought, maybe might be something we might talk about. It was intense. The interview, Dynamite Kid's daughter.
It was a little
uh,
different than other versions he's given.
It was a
Oh,
long, drawn out version, wasn't it? But yeah. So no, here's the way I see it, though. Like, I, from everything that I know, one, he's not a fighter. He definitely seems like he was bullied and picked on, and I'm a fan uh, of a bully getting what's coming to him, karma. Let's say like JBL when he was like fucking bumping Joey Styles and spilling his drink all over him, and Joey Styles said, "If you do that one more time, John, I'm gonna fucking punch you." He did it again, and Joey said, "Bam!" and knocked him out. Dude, I love that story because big bully, which he is known for being. Everyone knows that. There's 100 stories about him bullying, and not. I'm fine with him now. I mean, he's. I don't think he's the same person anymore that he was. None of us are, but this I see it like that. And then there's something in a legal term that's called proportionate response law. The proportionate response law has to do with uh, your response to being attacked, and it doesn't mean that if somebody comes at you and attacks you with a knife and you have a gun that you can't shoot them. And that's where I think people misunderstand. They think you can only go and elevate it just to the level that the attack is, and to an extent that's true, but what that has to do with is you can't go above what's necessary to stop the attack, and that's what proportionate response is. So when you're being attacked, you can do whatever's necessary, not anymore, not to a point of retaliation, only to a point of stopping the threat. Um, so at that point, I think that if somebody and Dynamite Kid didn't attack him at that point, so that's a whole different point. But when you are under attack, if you have a weapon on you, I am all for using it, especially if you're, let's say, someone that's not a fighter, someone that's weak, someone that, say, you're a mom, a female, older lady, whatever. I watch so many like road rage videos where people lose their shit because someone's following too close, and then they want to fight. I have issues with anger anyway, not personal issues, but I see anger as the enemy. So when I say I have issues, I mean I try to avoid it, and I always, with my RV ideology, I'm always recommending ways that if you agree with me and you don't like the angry version of you, how you can stay from becoming that, because it truly does take over. It's such a dominant emotion, like the Incredible Hulk. Once people get mad, rah, and they're pounding on windows and stuff. And I'm always wishing, especially when it's a lady and she's got kids in the car or whatever, I'm always wishing that lady had a gun. I've never been a gun fan my whole life, but in a point like that, I'm like, that dude, he that's ridiculous. Like he should expect to get shot, is how I feel. And I feel like I expect almost everyone to have a gun now. So I think it's stupid to allow anger to make you feel like you're a superhero out there. You should expect to get shot if you're attacking somebody. And that doesn't necessarily coincide smoothly with the proportional response. But you got to use what's at your disposal. And, some people might have strength, skill, experience at their disposal. Most people aren't going to, though. Most regular people only think they're tough when they're really angry. And that's because anger takes over. And then they're like, oh, and they lose all common sense and shit. But I don't know, man. I kind of see it as, man, if that's your kid at school, and he's getting bullied and he's coming home every day saying, man, they're picking on me, this and that and that. I can see, not that it's the right move or right advice, especially because it's an adult in the real world. It's assault and battery, and you go to jail. Like, forget about, it's a dressing room in real life. Fuck that. Especially nowadays, you could probably get the legal case in the dressing room because that's not, now it's a safe work environment, open for the public, as opposed to safe for, don't worry about what happens back here. We're behind closed doors. It ain't safe in that way anymore. I think someone that's getting bullied, if they can use what's at their disposal and bam, shut that bully up one time, let that bully know that that you're not gonna fucking eat shit anymore. And if it's like, say, a weak kid, the bully's 3 times the size or something, would you say, hey, if you have a stick in your hand, to use it or something? I can see where, in certain circumstances, where I don't blame Jacques, and that was how he laid the story out, even saying his dad gave him the advice to use the roll of quarters. And he knew that he was trying to stop a threat, trying to stop him from bullying him, and he knew that he couldn't take him one-on-one. He knew the Dynamite Kid would beat his ass, and so he had to up the game. And so I think I'm all right with it, except for the fact that the whole thing is wrong.
Yeah, because the reason the Bulldogs hated them, because they had stooged them out for cutting up their clothes, which, being a dressing room stooge, is a no-no. And it was actually Mr. Perfect who had done it. And then they ran right to McMahon's office after. So they clearly were stooges. But Dynamite was a bully. I agree on that.
And on that interview with the daughter too, she ended up, hanging up on him, saying she heard enough. Really, at that point, I don't have a hard time believing what Jacques was saying, though, about Dynamite Kid. And I don't know, but just knowing the boys and knowing the stories I've heard, I certainly don't have a hard time believing that maybe he was on gassed up on roids. Maybe he was on a lot of pain pills and probably muscle relaxers, which people don't separate, but those are what kill wrestlers, and drinking alcohol. She didn't want to hear that, but just knowing the boys, that's the boys. So
yeah,
so that probably, what
Jacques is no angel either, though. He'll tell you that he backed down the Steiners. I don't know if you've seen that. He backed down Ludwig Borga. He backed down Bam Bam Bigelow. No one else tells those stories. He tells a story that he throws an apple at Rick Steiner and it hit a post, and the apple exploded at the post, and the Steiners just walked away. And that Bam Bam Bigelow had duct tape Dink to a post, and Dynamite had Jacques had yelled that Bigelow, and I guess Bigelow unhooked him. But it's like, isn't that something other people would talk about? Wouldn't that be a big story if a midget was like, I don't know.
You would think so. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
There's a bunch, and he got everybody fired from WCW because he didn't want to. Colonel Parker tells the story. He got the whole team fired from WCW because he didn't want a job to Harlem Heat at the United Center, and they all had like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as contracts. So
yeah. He's, I don't know that much about him, but I've explained it this way a lot of times on the on my podcast, but like this was true in the dressing room. It was true on the bus, like in the All Japan bus, you're kind of like on one side of the fence or the other. Some wrestlers did get along with everybody and it kind of hung out in the middle, but you're usually either office or you're a hood, and that's just the way that it was. And if you were office, you usually stayed in your hotel room or you met at the hotel diner with the other office. And if you were hoods, then you were looking to have fun. I was a hood in All Japan because I like to smoke weed. And a lot of times hashish was easier to get than weed, same price, but it was better. So I would get that. So that automatically made me a hood. And so I hung out with the guys, even though they were doing coke, ice, all kinds of shit that I wasn't doing, but I was a hood. And I used to listen to Gary Albright talk about Johnny Ace, who is obviously office, all the time. He hated him so much, and you would get heat just for hanging out with Johnny. And it's matter of fact, one time Jungle Jim Steele, we all came out of Hard Rock Cafe in Roppongi, and we're all walking, and then all of a sudden Gary just stops and he goes, "I'm not going anywhere with him," and he would do that. Called him Mr. Hyde, and Danny Crofit's like, "Oh, come on, Hyde, don't come out now." And no, fuck that, I'm not going anywhere with him. And he's talking about Jim Steele, big 285-pound bodybuilder, big good dude too. Anyway, he goes, "You're Ace's boy," and that was the whole thing. Like always, it was always about if you were one of Ace's boys, he's, "I'm not going anywhere with him." He goes, "What? I like Johnny. I like you too. What?" And Gary went smack, and he smacked him so hard across his face. And Jim was like, "Well, Gary, what? I'm not gonna fight you." He goes, I'm not a fighter. What are you doing?" And he's like, "Fuck you! I'm not going anywhere with you." And so then, like Gary like walked off with a bunch of the guys, and then there was like that was the I guess I don't know. There's got to be a better word.
Yeah,
I mentioned that's anyway.
That's how it was in the old day. I got to ask you about Johnny Ace. So, do you believe that he would have had sex with Janelle Grant after McMahon took a crack upon her, if that actually happened? Is he that type that would have done that since you knew him?
I don't even know if that's I don't think that's the way that I read the story even.
Oh no, I thought that was the deal. Or did he? How did you read it?
Well, it was a long time ago now, but I remember like there was another dude there, but he was like a trainer, Vince's trainer or something during that poo-poo event that as I remember being reported. But anyway, Johnny, I've known him since '93, and I always got along with him better than everyone. A lot of people really, he gave a lot of people reason to have heat with him, and me too eventually, but not the kind that's gonna change my course of action. But he was always office though, like he was way back then. They were saying that he was too close to Mrs. Baba in All Japan, and that's a point too. It's almost silly how you got to be like a hood or office, or how it used to be, because in any other business, if you were to pitch some ideas maybe that you might have, that would be considered like a good tactic, somebody with some good intuition or drive or something. But in that business, in that time, you would be a stooge. You look at him, he's like taking the writers out and meeting with them and trying to get ahead, trying to say, "Oh, here's why you should push me." I hate that fucking stooge. And it was just so that's the meathead part of the business, the way that it was anyway. And really, like, there's definitely room in the middle to be proactive in a way and proactive in a way where you have to use that in place of some expectations that you might have. Like, I used to always think, if I do all the hard work, they should see it, and then they should have to just do what's right with me. It's up to them to protect their investment. I shouldn't have to kiss ass. And that's how I saw it, like in that closed competitive state of mind of being a hood. And like I said, that really only works in the dressing room.
Well, you've done as good as you can for being a hood, for being a real person in wrestling. Someone to asking you, and you're a very real person. Let me just bring this question up from Zachary Attackary. Have you changed your stance on the Raja Jackson incident? I guess he's been arrested.
No, not at all. Most people never even heard my stance. They just
maybe you could share it on here for those that haven't heard it, because that was a big subject on this channel during that time.
Yeah. No. So I noticed myself, Mark Henry, Chael Sonnen, and maybe there was somebody else, that they had the perspective to give of, here's a guy being set up, and he does a conditional apology. That's where a lot of the debate is when he does the apology, it's not, hey, everything is cool, don't worry about it, and then taking advantage of him. And the timing was horrible anyway. But like when Stu hit him in the head with the can, what a lot of people don't understand is that's not cool. Like, fans seem to think, but it was a stunt. You're both wrestlers. It doesn't matter. Like, if you come into a dressing room and it's not your dressing room, you don't know people there, and a dude comes up to you, it doesn't matter if it's a sponge in his hand. If he hits you on the head, he's testing you, right? I mean,
yes,
right.
That's a good point.
Right. So if you would react right then, what if you almost killed him right then? Then nobody would talk about it. Then it'd be cool. It was your maybe, I think. But because he waited so long till later, of course, that was not a good thing. I never said it was. I just said, like, for so far that I have his back, I could tell his perspective. And that was that he was pissed that happened. And then Rikishi's cousin was telling him, hey, I'm going to let you get him back in the ring. And the whole time they're telling him, you're going to get him back, all right? And he says, well, okay, as long as I get to get him back. That's what I see is a conditional apology. Other people see, no, they shook hands, everything was cool, and then he did this. I'm seeing the agreement made with the apology all the way till the end, and him saying all along, I'm going to hit him for real. I'm going to keep hitting him. I feel like he's set up. He's not a wrestler. He shouldn't be there. Did he go too far? Absolutely. But then again, too far for what? Not if he wanted to kill him. And then we're talking about proportionate response again, and that would rule not in his favor as far as it being a proportionate response. But he definitely was angry, seeing red. We just talked about that. Anger takes over. And I think all along he was planning on doing some grounding and pounding. He even told everybody. It wasn't like a secret, like he backstabbed anybody from that perspective.
Yeah, and I don't know why, because as a promoter, I would have tried to defuse that. I couldn't have seen anything good coming of that. What would you have done as like a 30-year veteran of the business to defuse that if that was your event or you were the complete veteran of the dressing room?
I wouldn't. I'd tell him that he didn't belong in the dressing room. If he was still pissed when he's outside, I'd try and give him some T-shirts, see if I could cool him down. But also, I would probably punish Stu. If that was something, if Stu wasn't set up and they didn't tell him, hey, this guy's expecting this, if he did that all on his own, then I think he's liable for some accountability as well. So if I was the promoter, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing that for? He's a mark. If you're going to hit him, fucking hit him hard, protect the business. That's as a 30-year-old vet, like if you're going to hit somebody, then fucking don't say afterwards, "Oh, I'm sorry." If you're gonna do that, he's not a wrestler.
Yeah, throw him out of the dressing room after. Don't apologize. He won.
Maybe both of them.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I appreciate that. So, where can people follow you for your podcast? Where can you give everyone all that information?
It's on my YouTube page at The Real RVD, and it's also at One of a Kind or RVD One of a Kind, something like that. I don't know. Yeah,
I'll throw it in the description. And last question I'll just throw in here quickly because it came up a few times in the fan questions was, could you say anything about your time in XPW?
Yeah, I've never been in XPW.
There you go. He's never been in XPW. Easy answer. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Sorry about the time mix up. I'll blame it on the pain medications I'm on, and I'll let you close this off with whatever you want to tell the fans.
Cool, man. We covered a lot of topics here. Anyone listening that is advisable or that's open to some constructive advice, yeah, like he said, he said that the promoter should have defused the situation. I think that would be a great skill for everyone to have always. Because, like I said, everyone thinks they're real tough when they're angry, and to make up for the toughness, they scream. The louder they scream, they're trying to intimidate them. It's like an animal in the woods, like a peacock growing its feathers out. It's just a natural thing to try to intimidate somebody, so they scream at him and they tell him how they're gonna kill him and no one's gonna fuck them up, and you come over here and say, hey, touch me again, and man, it's just looking back, like if I'm anywhere near in that state of mind afterwards, I'm so ashamed of myself. So I try to never let myself get there, and really de-escalation is a great way to do it. Try to de-escalate, man. You'd be so cool if someone's out of control and shit, and you're just in control and calm, and you're able to de-escalate like a fucking pro,